During the week of October 1st through 7th, we have Mercury making all kinds of aspects to the outer planets. We also have a really interesting event as Mercury also changes sign. All of this is going to be discussed in this video on the astrology for the week that's upcoming. So starting on Sunday, it's going to last until next Saturday, or this coming Saturday. Let's dive into the astrology for this week. We start on October 2nd with an aspect of Mercury to Neptune, which is an opposition. An opposition is 180 degrees. The two planets are moving in different directions. They're not seeing eye to eye. Whereas Mercury in Virgo wants to be really detail-oriented and wants to be very analytical and critical and focused on getting things right and focused on having a plan and following through with it. Neptune in Pisces wants to dissolve things. It wants to just float in a land of empathy and compassion and oneness with the all, and it wants to dissolve order and structure, and it wants to just go with the flow of whatever you feel in the moment, of whatever emotions or moods or whatever your intuition is calling you to do or say in that moment. That is Neptune in Pisces. So when Mercury is opposite Neptune, now Neptune can be a nebulous influence. It's very cloudy. It's like this fog machine, if you will. So Neptune is really nebulous. There's also a mysterious quality, like things under the surface that, the energy of Neptune is not clear. It's not, you can see it with the naked eye kind of thing, because you can't see Neptune with the naked eye. And so there's a mystery to Neptune's character. It's very wild in spiritual ways. It also rules illusions, like obstacle illusions, like what you see on the road, like when you're driving and it looks like there's water on the road, but as you get closer you discover, oh, there's not water, it's just an illusion. Kind of like when you're walking throughout the desert and you think that you see water, but really you're seeing something that is of the sand reflected, against the sun, the desert against the sun. So, whatever creates that illusion. So rules over illusions, or you may see something, but it actually may be you seeing with rose-colored glasses, and it may not be altogether true. When it comes to Neptune, things are not what they are, but what they seem to be. And as we get closer to that thing, we discover that it was an illusion, it was an allure, and it's actually something else, And I keep going back to this myth of the sirens, of where, yes, their song is beautiful, and yes, what they have to sing is beautiful and glorious and enchanting and captivating. But actually, if Odysseus went and followed the sirens and went to that island, they may have became monsters who would gobble Odysseus and all of his crew members up, or whatever it might be. So that illusion, so disillusionment. Neptune also rules film and television and movies, things that you can get lost in, things that look so real and so visceral and so vivid and so 3D, but they're actually not. Movies are not real, even though there's real people, acting, whatever, but it's not real. But movies, anything that is made to look real, that isn't real, is what Neptune rules over. Don't movies look so realistic? but they're not. Maybe, I mean, if they were portraying true stories or, whatever, but, so it also rules over spirituality. It rules over connection with your higher self, connection with, a higher power, your intuition, and psychic sensitivity are also things that are ruled by Neptune. And Neptune also corresponds to unconditional love. Love for just who you are, just being who you are. Just as a soul living a human experience as you are right now. And, love for your divine self, love for your beingness, love for who you are beyond what you must be. Unconditional love is not conditional, where you must do these things and be this way in order to love you. Just whatever you have going on, warts and all, I love you. Because you are God in human form. You are a steward of the divine in human form. And your divinity, your inner beauty, your true spiritual beauty is what I love about you. So, empathy and compassion, those are also things that are ruled by Neptune. And so, this is an opposition. So, oppositions are a difficult aspect. So, now, with the opposition, our minds become foggier, our minds become more clouded. There's more of a confusing energy where we're not seeing things clearly. We may not see information or news or what somebody's saying clearly. We may misunderstand or misinterpret what people are saying, or other people may misinterpret and misunderstand us. So that's something to be aware of. So be aware of miscommunications. It's like typical Mercury retrograde things, like make sure that you check again to make sure that you heard and you interpreted the information correctly, because under this influence you may think that you interpreted it correctly, but then you didn't, because of the fog that Neptune sort of brings. So there's misunderstandings that could come about. So not seeing things clearly. You may just, have the rose-colored glasses on, think that you see things clearly, but you're really not seeing them too clearly. So that's something with this aspect that's super important. So it's not very good for discernment over what is true and what is fantasy, what is in your mind, what is of your imagination. Because there may be some confusion with these two. You may not be able to tell that easily what's real, what's fantasy. And so it may require more effort to discern between this is practical, this is in the 3D dimensional realm of life. This is what's logical, this is what's rational, this is what is objectively true. And this over there is my fantasy, is of the image or video that plays out in my mind that looks to be real, but it's actually just a thought, and it's actually just a feeling, and it's not real. So what is fantasy? What is, imagination, and what you're just, creating from your mind, and then what is real? And also, falling prey to, victim consciousness. That can also be in the fantasy realm. And I actually want to refer you to a video that I was watching the other day from a channel that I have followed. I've been watching her for a while, and I feature her in my astrology channels on my homepage. The channel is Owning Authenticity, and I was watching her video, which was part 1 of a contemplation on the Pisces South Node, Virgo North Node placement in the natal birth chart. So you can find that video, and she talks about victim consciousness more in depth. in that video. And I've gone online and seen plenty of astrologers who are left brain and, say all the things that I know and say all the things that I tell you on these videos. And so I kind of wish that more astrologers were more like, Carly Wharton, who's the creator of the channel Owning Authenticity. But anyway, so, discerning what information is misinformation, false information, and what is true information. It's also not a good aspect for work that is detail oriented, so work that involves crossing the I's, dotting the T's, that involves paying attention to the details in your life. So doing that kind of work like accounting and paying the bills and, fixing a part of your house or fixing the roof or building a table, like all of the detail-oriented stuff in your life, it's not the best for that. And maybe not good for having hard conversations with people or having deep, meaningful conversations or negotiations because you may misunderstand something of what they're trying to say. So it also poses a negative shadow energy for negotiations. So, like, I've already explained it before. So, it's also important to look around your world and consider what people are saying to you, what people are trying to convince you of something. Because those people could deceive you. Those people could say something that you misunderstand or they didn't know what they were saying. And even if they mean it with all the best intentions. So it's an opportunity, this aspect, to dig deeper. The universe is like, okay, I'm giving you an opportunity to really, really dig deeper into communications. Do you read the fine print? Do you read between the lines? Or do you just take what is coming to you and you just take it and look at it at face value? Are you willing to understand that life is not black and white? And there are hidden motives to what people are trying to make you do or have you do, maybe for their own gain, for their own, thing or whatever. But that sounds very egoic of me to say. In general, when people give you an offer to something, talk about something deep and meaningful with you, offer something up to you, convince you of something, convince you to do something, then are they looking out for your best interest, or are they, in alignment with your truth, in alignment with what you want, that will deliver fruitful results, or are they deceiving you? And you may regret going along with that. Who knows what the situation is in your life if you, have a job and if you work and, do whatever you get out into the world, that kind of thing, then this aspect may be more pertinent to you as opposed to other people. So it all depends on you, your life situation, and what's going on in your own natal chart. This is also an aspect that deals with reevaluating your spiritual ideals, your philosophies, your beliefs. So the information or news that may be coming about may be confusing. So that's something to note too. Positively, this aspect is great for anything involving imagination. So if you're writing a poem, if you're writing a story, if you are writing a play, or you're singing a song, or doing anything that is creative where you use your imagination. Because Neptune is the doorway into your imagination. The doorway to anything is possible in your imagination. You can dream something up and it can be possible. Neptune is that planet that points to the spirituality that comes from you in your imagination. So, anything that is creative at this time would be great, or anything that is spiritual, like any spiritual practice or spiritual activity, or any mystical practice, mystical activity would be wonderful at this time. It's also a great energy for journaling, writing down your thoughts, getting them out, and just journaling and just putting the junk that's coming from your mind onto the page, and not expecting to censor or make it perfect or whatever. So I have several oracle cards down over there, and it could be good energy to to pull out an oracle card deck if you have one, or work with tarot and, journal what the meaning of the cards mean for you in your particular life situation. Because it's an opposition, any reading, if you're getting a reading from a psychic or somebody like that, there may be deceiving, maybe a con, or whatever it is. So certain psychic and intuitive abilities maybe could be avoided during this time. The other thing about this aspect is daydreaming. So this presents an energy that would be more convincing for you to daydream. So this is, you may find yourself daydreaming or becoming space, or floating off into space, and doing all those kind of things. And those daydreams may provide answers. Like maybe you have a daydream and you have this answer. You have this intuitive thought, this intuitive realization. You have this idea or this vision or this new way of approaching your life through daydreaming. And then you can manifest it in the physical. But also, on the other hand, balancing the creativity and the imagination and the daydreaming, allowing yourself time to daydream, to space out. But also, do not forget about your responsibilities on the practical plane. So, October 3rd, we have a Mercury and Pluto transit. So Mercury is going to trine Pluto on this day. Now, Pluto is the lord of death, it's transformation. It is about looking at what is hidden beneath the surface. Pluto is the digger, it wants to dig to what is beneath. And it looks at the stuff, the guts, the bones, the trash of what is not pretty, but what needs to be looked at and dug up and then tossed away and released. There's certain things that Pluto wants you, begs you to unearth. And so it is up to you to unearth those things, to look at them, to dig to what's in the shadows, to get honest with yourself, to look at them. And when you go through crisis, when you go through release, transformation, you become stronger and you become more empowered. And that's what Pluto wants. So, when we think about Pluto, we think about energy that is rising, a phoenix rising from the ashes. And so that's very much Pluto energy. Is, you're dying, you're in the ashes, and then something is rising out of that. So this aspect, your mind may be penetrating during this time. You may be feeling more passion on a given issue, on a given conversation, on something. So the power of persuasion is definitely up. You can convince somebody of something and they can agree with it. Like maybe you're having a conversation where something comes up that you're passionate about and you want to convince them of something, and you can really tap into an intensity, a mental, agile, sharp focus on what you want, and you can talk with such a confidence and passion and drive and strength that people are going to be on your side during this time. So this is great for any kind of, sales pitch or business deals. Studying occult topics such as astrology, divination, studying psychology, all those kind of things like that. You may also have time where you have a deep self-analysis, where you really, really look at your, stuff, whatever it may be. So, you're looking at, you're looking below the surface and doing a lot of deep psychological work on yourself. So, really looking at your, what are your, desires? What do you want to communicate? All those kind of things like that. And so this is great to get a reading, like either, a psychic reading. So we just had that energy of Mercury opposite Neptune, which wasn't the best energy to get readings. And now we have a Mercury trine Pluto aspect, which now is a green light to get like a psychic reading or getting a palm reading or something like that. Now, this is the detector aspect, the detective aspect. So this aspect, if you're doing any kind of research or investigation, like this is good to research what's going on in your immediate environment. What do they think? What are their psychological motivations? What do they need and want from you? What is a mystery or case that you can solve in your life, in your environment? Or if you're researching online, like if you are a journalist or investigator or something, this is productive, positive energy for you. So, this energy in general is good for whatever you're doing. Can you dig a little bit deeper? Research it a little bit more. Dig into this. So research and investigation comes to play here until you find the root of something. Maybe it's research and investigation within yourself. Really, really getting honest about, who you are and what you want and what your deepest desires are. So researching online topics, investigating, trying to finding the truth of a given matter. And your communication could also cut right to the truth like a knife. It can be very, very deep, piercing. And so you can really, really use the Plutonian power that you have in your mind to communicate something in a deep and probing and focused and sharp and passionate way. So this is great for any kind of debates. If you want to get into a discussion with somebody or debate, if you're involved in a debate, if you are having a conversation with a family friend or loved one about something difficult, of something that involves the shadows, of digging deep, of getting to the bottom of something, then this is great energy for that. So digging into taboo topics is something with this aspect that comes into play here. Now the other thing that is more of a negative, more of a malefic aspect of this aspect, pun on word there, is obsessive compulsive tendencies. So you may find that it doesn't feel too difficult or you don't feel too guilty for getting into such obsessive compulsive tendencies, but maybe the trine could bring to light those tendencies, those obsessive compulsions, things like that. And trines are also positive aspects, so they really bring talents and gifts and opportunities and good things that you don't really have to work for. It's like right there and you can grab it. So whatever those obsessive compulsive tendencies are, maybe it's good energy to heal those tendencies. And maybe you notice things that you haven't noticed before if we go back to the investigation aspect of this. So maybe you look around and you notice a certain detail that you have not noticed before yet. And maybe there's things in a research project or a fund or a money payback thing, whatever it may be. Or somewhere that you go where you notice things that you haven't noticed before. So any kind of research and investigation. And so the other thing that this is good for is going to therapy or psychology. So psychologists and therapists and such people can really thrive under this influence. Can really, really sit with people and really hear them, listen to them, talk about what is going on in their life, and intuitively find the answers of what to say to help them. And to go deep, to have deep conversations. That's what this is good for. Now, October 4th through the 22nd, Mercury is in Libra. That's the next thing that I want to discuss here. So, from these 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 days of Mercury in the sign of Libra. So that's the next aspect. So Mercury on September 29th, 30th, Mercury cleared the shadow. Mercury is officially done with its retrograde season. It's done with its retrograde territory. So it's moving on to a new territory. It's moving on to a new sign. It will be in Libra from the 4th through the 22nd. So this particular transit is great for diplomacy, making peace with people, coming together, having conversations with people in a very diplomatic way. Understanding and valuing the perspectives in others comes into play here. So we can see the different sides of the different points of view of a given issue and understand where someone else is coming from, what their perspective is, what their viewpoint on this particular issue is. So the idea is we can be open to those perspectives. We can offer our opinion with assertion, with self-confidence, with valuing ourselves to offer our opinion and then listen to the other people's opinions and then come to a conclusion, come to an agreement, and maybe bringing a harmony and peace to a viewpoint that may be very, very different than your own. What is the U.S. right now with the polarized political climate? And I believe that we are working harder on coming together and finding more peace and union and unity and togetherness and more healthy compromise and more grace and more respect for people that have a very, very different political viewpoint than us. So on the political spectrum, more people can come together and make peace with one another and their opinions. Because everyone's entitled to their true opinion. And so, you may think that this should go one way and the other person, this should go a different way. And so how can you bring the two viewpoints together and take the best from both worlds, work out a compromise, and work out a solution? So just allowing the person's slack and grace and listening, truly listening to the other's perspective. So negotiations and debates can work really, really well. So we're more open-minded during this time. We're more adaptable to situations. We're more cooperative with others. And we may find that we're more agreeable under this influence. We don't want to rock the boat. We want to agree. We want to get along with people. So wherever this falls in your natal chart, wherever Mercury in Libra falls in your natal chart, you want to create balance in this area of life. Where is there imbalance? Where is there the seesaw unbalanced? Where the two need to be in tandem. So creating more balance, because Libra rules, it corresponds to the scales. It symbolizes it. The symbol of Libra is the scales, and so the scales. Libra is very, very interesting because it is the only sign with a human-made symbol. Every single sign is symbolized by either a person or an animal, or like Aquarius is the water maiden, which is kind of interesting. Not really human, but anyway. So Libra is the only sign that is symbolized by a man-made object. So so that can be something. So, creating more balance, creating more moderation, not, overdoing in a particular area of life, but, balancing things out. And so there's a desire to keep the peace. And so it is important to assert yourself and to know that your opinion matters. Know that your opinion is valid and you are worthy of speaking that opinion. It matters because you are a part of the group. You are not separate from the group. So, your opinion matters. And so there may be a desire to keep the peace at all costs. And so how this can show up is when you keep the peace, you don't address certain issues. What if you do not address certain issues that come up because you don't want disharmony? So you just have the superficial conversations about, the weather, whatever, and you avoid really getting to the truth of the answer because you're afraid of what other people are going to think of you. You're afraid of what they're going to say to you, how they're going to react. You're afraid that they're not going to like you anymore, want to be with you anymore. That can be a real fear for somebody who has a lot of Libra influence, where they're not using the healthy version of Libra, and especially if they have a lot of Libra influence and their South Node is in Libra. The South Node is what we are moving away from, what we are, the sort of habit patterns that we're purging or releasing. So, at best, how this can show up is we're more rational when it comes to reaching fair conclusions. We're more logical. We're thinking of solutions that will benefit the group. We're seeing things objectively. We're grounded, we're practical. Saturn, which is a really grounded, practical, pragmatic energy, rules Capricorn, is exalted in the sign of Libra. So we're feeling more, grounded and considering how to get along with other people and being what is fair and just for everyone. That can be something that we are thinking about, is togetherness, is how can we all get along? Where does teamwork make the dream work? So another downside is becoming indecisive, like, weighing out my opinion, weighing out his or her opinion, and so becoming indecisive. So can we just take all the information, weigh out, view all of these different perspectives, size up all these different viewpoints, and then come to action, and then make decision, leaning towards the opposite sign of Aries, which just wants to make a decision. It wants to just go after something, make something happen. It wants to take action. That kind of energy. So, this is good for having difficult conversations in a relationship, asking hard questions, smoothing over rough edges, forgiving people whom we have a grudge over, and finding more peace, like drawing an olive branch, extending an olive branch to somebody else, and making peace and having healthy conversations in that regard. Alrighty. So the other thing, just one little thing that I just want to mention about October 4th before I move on, is that Mars will oppose, making an opposition, a 180-degree opposition to the North Node. So this opposition really looks at Mars energy. How are we using our Martian energies? Are we assertive? Are we direct? Are we picking up our energy to achieve what we want to? Are we really channeling that energy in a productive way? Are we taking action towards what we desire? And all those kind of things like that, or are we too, impulsive and aggressive, and all those kind of things like that. So, to contemplate that, we make for a good contemplation during this particular day. Are we taking actions that will move us further on the path of our spiritual destiny, of where we're meant to go, of what we're meant to evolve into, which is the North Node? So wherever the North Node is, that's where we're meant to head toward. So are we taking actions that will move us in the direction of courage, assertion, creating the life that we want to, going after our needs, wants, and desires? This all Aries energy. Alrighty. So, the final thing that I want to talk about is where the moon is on October 5th and 6th. So the moon is in Cancer on October 5th and 6th. So the moon rules Cancer. So the moon is coming home to the zodiac sign of Cancer, where it rules, where it's considered domicile. So we can find ourselves. This is a great opportunity, these couple of days, to take care of our emotional needs, our instinctual needs. So to take care of those needs, prioritize those needs. Doing whatever we can. So what does our body need? What will nourish us on an intellectual level? What will bring comfort to us? Certain foods, or certain movies, or certain songs that we love, or meditating, or whatever it is that brings you emotional comfort, emotional security, that makes you feel at home, and that makes you feel peaceful and content in who you are. So taking care of those needs are important. Now, the other interesting thing about the moon in Cancer, which is going to be upcoming, is it's a time for us to take a look at our deeper motivations. our deeper motivations. What are we motivated to do? What do we want to do? What do we want to, when we say the grass is greener on the other side, do we believe that the grass is actually greener on the other side? And what are we going to do to make it greener on the other side? So looking at our deeper motivations for what we want on the psychological level. So we're also more connected to our home within ourselves. So our innermost home. There's a card from Wisdom of the Oracle, which is an oracle deck that I have down there by Colin Baron Reed. That is about home, finding home, safety, serenity, peace within ourselves. And so we can just sit with our feelings. We can just be present with our feelings in our home, in our external home. So it's a time of the month where we evaluate. Do we feel at home in our home? Do we feel like we are emotionally cared for, nurtured, taken care of on an emotional level? Or do we feel sad or just like we need more nurturing? And that kind of thing. So it's a time to nurture others and ourselves, and tapping into our mother energy. So taking care of our emotional needs, filling up our cup, and then taking care of other people's emotional needs as well. So nurturing others. And so the other thing is being mindful for moodiness. You may feel one way, then you may feel another way. So anything that you can do to ground yourself would be good to this time. Connect with your true self. Your self that goes beyond external conditionings or societal expectations or what other people want from you or the whole nature versus nurture thing. Your true self. So connecting to that self during this time. So can we connect with our true innermost self and allow ourselves time and grace and space during this lunar transit to, connect with ourselves on that deep, real, raw, primal, emotional level. And then the final thing is on October 5th, we do have a trine. So the moon in Cancer is going to come to a trine with Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn is the planet of responsibility. It rules over anything that involves discipline, structure. It corresponds to being very patient and persistent and forthright and very disciplined in terms of achieving our goals. So Saturn brings a sober, sort of logical, objective energy to the forefront. So the moon trining Saturn, you may be feeling it's a good time to take on more responsibility. You may feel more responsible when it comes to feeling your emotions and responding to them as opposed to reacting to your emotions or feelings or whatever's going on in your external environment. So you can actually feel your feelings and do something practical and responsible about them. Handling difficult things, challenges, obstacles that are thrown at you. And so people may come to you for advice and wisdom. Saturn's very, very wise, and it has learned that, and it's hard-earned wisdom through struggle and through getting over challenges and through difficulty in life, and through doing the hard work and just... So this can also be good for, honoring traditional values. So certain family traditions or certain, ancestral traditions, or looking at your ancestors, things that have been passed down. And so can you be a sort of beacon of light to pass that wisdom onto others? Maybe look to authority figures or, your grandparents or the people in your world for wisdom and insight at this time. So, our decisions are more logical. Our decisions are more grounded in reality. We can say, nope, this is what is the logical thing to do on an emotional level, and this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to go. This is how I'm going to be manifesting or responding to the emotions that I'm feeling. So our decisions when it comes to engaging in the certain matters of our life can be more grounded, could be more pragmatic. We're feeling more emotionally stable during this time. And so this can blend the happy marriage of our logic. So our, logical mind, or, mental thinking process, and our instincts and intuition. So we can blend these two things together. So we can make logical, rational decisions with having our instincts and our intuition being in point, pointing us in the right direction based off of a feeling that feels like this is where I need to go. This is what I need to go. This feels right. This is right for me. So that is your astrology forecast for this particular week, or for the week of October 1st through the 7th of 2023. Thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.